Brian posted about this unsettling encounter in the mailing list in 1998, but he has since started that the actual event probably occurred in the summer of 1996. He was in a town of Abilene, sitting in his car and attempting, using the light of a nearby building, a movie theater, to try to write out a check to pay his internet provider. He hears someone tapping on the window on the driver's side. He looks up and sees two boys. Neither of them was older than about 16. They're dressed in hoodies, standing outside his locked car door. He rolls down the window, not sure what to expect, when the hairs on the back of his neck begins to stand up on end. An inexplicable, dread-like fear grabs hold of him. One of the boys begins to talk to Brian, and the boy explains that he and his friend needs a ride, that they wanted to go catch a movie, but they left their cash at home and needed a ride home to fetch it. Well, the conversation seemed fine. The paralyzing fear of Brian felt hadn't dispersed. In fact, the pit of the dread in his stomach continued to expand. He couldn't understand why he was feeling this way, but he was terribly afraid. As the conversation continued, Brian glanced up at the theater building. He saw that the last movie of the night had already begun. By the time he drove the two boys home and got back to the theater, there wouldn't be any movies left for them to see. As Brian thought about this, the older boy, the one was doing all the speaking, started to get more pushy. He was saying that they were just kids and that it wouldn't take long. He said that it was not like they were armed or anything. The last part only unsettled Brian even more. Despite the fear, he felt his hand straying towards the lock on the car door. When he realized this, he yanked his hand away. He looked up at the boys to see if they had registered his unnatural hand movements. And that's when he calms his blood ran cold. Both the children had their eyes that were fully black as pitch. No iris, no pupil. That's when Brian panic reached its apex. He muttered an apology, hastily rolled up the window, and drove away with haste. As his car pulled away, the older boy knocked on the window with some force. Brian claims he then said the following: "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay to let us in." As Brian hurriedly drove away, he looked back in his rearview mirror. The two boys were gone. Being a journalist, Brian recorded what he saw. What is why the accounts of the experience are so well preserved, even across the different sources. After Brian's detailed and thorough recount of the experience got buzzed on the internet, there have many more people coming out into the woodwork who claim to have a similar experience. Many of them share similarities. It always seems to be a group of two children, though they apparently aren't always two boys. They always seem to be asking for help. Some people reported that the children knocked late at night and asked to use their restrooms. There is even one case of a Marine claiming that he has had a similar experience in his barracks. The children also seem to constantly request that they will be let inside, whether it is a car, a house, or a military barracks. It seems like they cannot enter where they aren't invited. It's unknown what actually happens if you let the BEK, the black-eyed kids, in. Those who have done so may not be around to give us the details of the encounters. It may be that the entire thing is a hoax, but if that's the case, why would Brian Bethel, by all accounts a normal person and the successful journalist, put his redemption and credibility on the line by making up a story? I don't know for sure whether this is creepy urban legend is true or not. On the other hand, I know exactly what to do if the two young kids ever tap on my car window in the dead of night asking for a ride. I won't even roll down the window.